Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Definitely pop into the chat and let us know you're here. It's been a terrific afternoon to this point. I know you guys were loving Mel Shante. Mel, thank you for just bringing all of yourself to our conference today. And what another terrific way for us to come together and to reflect and to learn. Different than what we're used to, and it's obvious that everybody loved it. So thanks very, very much. Okay, great. I'm seeing the chat blow up. Welcome back, everyone. Southern Oregon is in the house. So is Tucson, Arizona. And Patty, I'm so sorry. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that one. And Iowa is here. So Nashville, great. Everybody is back and paying attention, and hopefully your phone is off and your email is closed and you've taken a deep breath and you're ready to join us again for another fantastic session. Just a couple of housekeeping notes before we dive into our content. Again, we have the Unbag session immediately following this one, which is an opportunity to really come together with your Goodwill colleagues across the network and reflect and process what you've learned today and how you might apply it to your own leadership journey. So it's not too late to join. Following this session, you can join any one of those Unbag sessions. I realized that I misstated something during the last session with Arande, which was how do you access the survey? I think I said that it was in the virtual lobby. It is not. The surveys are within the confines of this session. If you look in the upper left-hand corner where it says info within this session screen, just click on that and you will see the survey. And so we encourage you to share your feedback, share your thoughts. What can we do more of? What can we do less of? What can we do different to make this the best possible learning environment for you? Your workbook. We're going to get to Denise Hinden in just a minute. Her session is on page 10 of your workbook. Take it out, get a pen or a pencil ready, and get ready to take notes and ask yourself questions and get curious so that you can really reflect on the learning that you're going to experience in just a couple minutes. And then lastly, you guys are already doing it. You guys are blowing up the chat, and I love it because it really provides a way for us to connect in this virtual environment. Throughout the course of Denise's presentation, we're going to have a couple of opportunities where we're going to specifically ask you to put some information in chat, and we're also going to ask you to take part in a poll. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an instruction right now for a heads up for when we bring it up. You'll see in that same left-hand navigation bar within your screen right now a place where it says polls. When the time comes, that's how you're going to access the poll that Denise invites you to take part in. So you will go there, you'll take your poll, and we will add that information as context to the session that we're about to go in. So with that, and I see Jody, I see you. I see your question about completing a survey for a closed session. I don't know the answer right now, but my team is going to text me as we are going through the course of this presentation, and I'll make sure I circle back to your question, and I will find out how we can do that. So with that, you guys, we are in for a treat with Denise Hinden. We have really, across Goodwill, focused a lot, certainly within our leadership program offerings through GII, we've focused a lot on mindset in the last year plus. And we are inviting you into an opportunity to really dig in and understand how your mindset shapes and informs your leadership and how you can use your mindset to really activate your leadership to be the best leader that you can be. We will be joined in just a moment by Denise Hinden. Denise is the president of Managence Consulting and Coaching, and she leads a firm that helps transform organizations with really proactive strategic planning and coaches leaders and leadership teams through her organization. She was the lead researcher and co-designer of the Executive Transition Management and a now widely used methodology for effectively supporting nonprofits through leadership transitions. She's also the author of the Nonprofit Organizational Culture Guide, revealing the hidden truths that impact performance, as well as Taking Leadership to the Next Level, a year of stimulating essays to discover more joy in leading and inspiring others. She has just a tremendous amount of experience in helping leaders and boards find alignment to success, and I know that all of you are going to just find great value and resource in the conversation that we are about to begin. So with that, let me introduce Denise Hinden.
Deb, thank you so much for the great introduction, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm honored to share this time with so many amazing Goodwill leaders. It's been a pleasure meeting and working with many of you over the last decade, and I'm always excited to make many new connections. Today, we are talking about one of my favorite topics, how to avoid a mindset crisis by leading through opportunity. In a minute, we'll do a quick poll. Then I have a Goodwill story to share. From there, we'll explore 6 different filters that influence our mindset, and we'll talk about the one mindset that fuels exemplary leaders in every situation. And we'll wrap up with 4 strategies you can use immediately to access your opportunity mindset when you most need it. So now you should see a poll on your screen with the question, what is a mindset crisis? Pick from the best answer from among the choices. Is it paralyzing fear, a lack of confidence, or anger and frustration? We'll give it a minute to let the results come in.
So I'm going to help Denise, but because her screen doesn't show her the poll right now. So what you all need to do is click on the poll button on the left-hand side of your screen. A red button will come up that says Vote Now. Click on Vote Now and then pick your answer and click the red button that says Vote. I can see that we are getting lots of votes coming in. Just so you know, Denise, we're seeing right now in those 3 areas, our lead horse right now is lack of confidence at about 42%. And we're sort of neck and neck with paralyzing fear and anger and frustration, both roughly at 28 to 30%, 27 to 28%. And just so you know, if you wanted to know what I voted lack of confidence.
Thanks, Deb. Okay, so should we move forward? Do you think we've got enough of the votes in? Okay.
Yeah, I think we'll call it good. And paralyzing fear at 30. Lack of confidence at 43, and anger and frustration at 26.
Great. Sounds good, and I really appreciate the results. So this was kind of a trick question. Whichever answer you picked, you are all right. A mindset crisis is fear. It is a lack of confidence, and it is feeling anger and frustration in the internal conversations we are having with ourselves. Our mindset is the internal filter we use to experience our world, And that filter influences our experience in our world. Perhaps you can relate to this example. Some people like to clean their house. Their automatic filter is that cleaning is an opportunity to relax and they enjoy it. When I think about cleaning, I feel as if I'm being controlled by something I can't do anything about, and I get irritated, and I'm not very good at it. It feels like a complete waste of my time, and my negative mindset easily leads to a headache and arguing with my husband. It is no fun. However, when I take a minute and I realize that I can turn cleaning into the opportunity to listen to a good audiobook, my mindset shifts, and so does my experience. I can clean all afternoon with positive energy. That's what I mean by avoiding a mindset crisis and leading through opportunity. So, you know, Deb, we're among friends. So I want everyone to be honest when you answer this next question in the chat. As a Goodwill leader, how many hours a week would you say you spend working through fear, a lack of confidence, or feelings of anger and frustration? In other words, working through a mindset crisis. Please put a number in the chat. And Deb, let me know what kind of numbers you see folks posting.
Oh goodness. Okay, so I am seeing everything from 2 hours to 15 hours. We have a couple of percentages, and I've seen an 80%. I've seen a 30%. I've seen, yeah, lots of 2s, 5s, between 5 and 10, 15 hours a week.
Okay.
10, a lot.
Okay, cool. A lot, yeah. Okay, so listen. If you answered 3 or few hours a week, you are already doing a great job motivating yourself and others to positive, productive action. That's terrific. And today I'm going to share some ways you can do even better. If you answered 4 or more hours a week, annually, that's more than 200 hours. You are reducing your performance capacity by 10% or more, and you may be missing many opportunities. It could mean missed donations, high staff turnover, poor customer service, and a lack of creative ideas for problem solving. And it could translate into thousands of missed dollars to advance the Goodwill mission. So now I want to tell you a quick story about what happened to Chattanooga Goodwill, CGI, when it solved a 10-year mindset crisis. I met with the Chief Operating Officer in the fall 2018. She shares she believes the organization lost its direction, operates in silos, is disconnected from the community, and employees fear they will lose their job if they speak up about their concerns. These challenges evolved over several years because of one real challenge after another and one leadership mindset crisis after another. When we finish our work together in December 2019, staff turnover is at its lowest rate in 5 years. Silos are disappearing, and employees begin to feel empowered. Leaders are listening and acting on staff recommendations. The organization earns $1 million more in revenue, and the COO officially becomes the new CEO. In March 2020, like all of us, Chattanooga Goodwill was hit hard by the pandemic. If that was not enough, a tornado on Easter Sunday destroyed their largest volume store. These situations, the pandemic and the tornado, could have easily created a downward spiral back to that 10-year mindset crisis we just helped them recover from. But this time, the CGI leaders looked at these challenges through the mindset of opportunity. They were open and honest with staff about hard decisions they had to make. They forged new relationships in the community. They advocated for the help they needed, and they envisioned a different future in spite of their challenges. This year, Chattanooga Goodwill will transform again as it opens its first Job Connection Center and it relocates its corporate headquarters to a new Opportunity Campus. This is what it means to avoid a mindset crisis by leading through opportunity. What initially made the difference for CGI? CEO Gina Weldon and I boil it down to 3 things. First, a leadership mindset focused on possibility. Second, the belief that opportunities happen when there is trust and transparency in an organization. And 3, the CEO's shift, aligning everyone to a new expectation around trust and putting together a strategic business plan around a shared vision. Gina says the culture is important, the big picture dreaming is important, and blending the two is essential. Dreaming for our organizations and teams becomes easier when our leadership mindset go-to is leading through opportunities. So you can read more about CGI's experience in the Psychology Today blog, Transforming Organizational Culture, a CIQ case study in leading change. Now, it's natural that about 1/3 of you, I should say us, are skeptical. And you may be saying to yourself, well, that was all good for Chattanooga Goodwill, but it might not work for me or our Goodwill. I was that kind of skeptic most of the time myself 13 years ago when I was leading and consulting with nonprofit organizations. And then someone introduced me to the special sauce I'm going to share with you. It transformed my work and my life. We know from the poll earlier that every day there's pressure on our mindset as leaders. And you know from the story about Chattanooga Goodwill that leader mindsets can impact a whole organization. So now I'm going to introduce you to the powerful energy leadership framework Bruce Schneider created to help us understand what's at work with our mindset and the invaluable influence we can have in the way we lead. Our lives and our work present us with many complicated and complex challenges. As humans, we all have powerful brains, and the question for Goodwill leaders like all of you is, how do we choose to experience those difficult situations, or maybe not see them as difficult situations at all, and rather perfect opportunities to lead? Energy is our mindset. Leadership is how we inspire and motivate others beyond persistent negative thoughts that diminish our capabilities to find the opportunities in every situation and lead calmly and confidently every day. The next 6 minutes or so, maybe 6 to 8 minutes, are going to be like speed dating as I quickly introduce you to 6 mindset levels. We all experience all these levels, and each one has advantages and disadvantages. When we strengthen our mindset muscle to make level 5 our most frequent go-to or our default, that is the space where we make leading through opportunity a habit. So Deb mentioned in the workbook, there's a lemon worksheet and a spark for mindset musings and action worksheet. And I love to see in the chat examples of your experiences relating to these mindset levels as I'm introducing them to you. And we can come back to some of your comments and questions in the Q&A. With a level 1 mindset, we feel hopeless and powerless, like I feel when I have to clean my house. Like biting into a lemon, it can taste bitter, and we feel at a loss for what to do. Nothing or very little seems possible when we feel this way. It might be how you felt when you had to furlough staff or close stores at the beginning of the pandemic. So make a few notes in your worksheet when you felt like this, and share something in the chat if you wish. With a level 2 mindset, we feel anger, fear, mistrust, and defensive. We not only judge and self-blame, but we also judge and blame others, and we can even feel taken advantage of. It could feel like a lemon grenade ready to explode. It might be how you felt early in the pandemic when you struggled through the chaos to access sufficient protective equipment for your staff, and you faced many roadblocks. So keep making notes in your worksheet, how you felt at level 2, and again, I invite you to share something in the chat. Energy levels 1 and 2 represent the catabolic or negative mindsets that we as humans are hardwired for. They are natural, they protect us, and they help us take precautions. However, when these levels are our default continuously, we feel depleted and exhausted at the end of the day. It's tough to lead well when these catabolic mindsets dominate our thoughts. Now, with a level 3 mindset, we move away from defeat or anger toward coping and explaining. It's a more positive mindset because we start looking past our own limited perspective to others' needs and interests. And yet, it has the potential to quickly take a downturn. It could feel like a momentary smile that could just as quickly turn into a frown. For example, when it comes to donations, a level 3 mindset would say, many people are still facing a tough time, so donating isn't their priority. It is positive toward an opportunity of many people donating, and it's not simultaneously because we're doubting their generosity. With a level 4 mindset, we focus on deep compassion, giving, loving, caring, and nurturing others to meet their needs. It could feel like giving a thirsty person a glass of cool water with a refreshing lemon slice, or doing all you could in the early days of the pandemic to avoid laying off staff, or if you did, connecting them to helpful community resources. Level 4 energy is loving and supportive for the person you are helping. So keep making notes about times when you've noticed this kind of energy in you, and share your examples in the chat. We have a couple more. With a level 5 mindset, we look for opportunities everywhere despite the challenges. Place a big circle around this level in your notes. It sums up the saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. When I talked to Gina Weldon at Chattanooga Goodwill in April 2020, this is what her level 5 energy sounded like. We were ready to press send the minute the banks were receiving the PPP applications. We were going to celebrate our 97th birthday in June, no matter what. With a level 6 mindset, leaders move beyond a single opportunity to a vision of something new and different that is a catalyst for change for many. It feels like making a lemonade widely available for a bigger purpose, which is what Alex's Lemonade does to fight childhood cancer. It is what happened when Chattanooga Goodwill lost their busiest store and e-commerce division to that Easter Day tornado, and is now building a new store, a new campus, and job connection center like many other Goodwills offer. What we know from research and experience is that the default or go-to mindset for the highest performing leaders is level 5. These leaders start out looking for opportunities. They don't get stuck by the challenges. When life gives them lemons, they make lemonade. So what does it mean to lead through opportunity? It feels as if there are possibilities. It motivates some small steps. Get more information, have a conversation, ask for an opinion, read an article for a spark of an idea. It offers an alternative path. It creates an opening where we did not see one before. It answers the questions, what if, or how can we? It unsticks us. It invites new connections. It sparks new perspective. It pushes us to think bigger and maybe risk more. Our leading mindset is like the stock market going up and down all day. Because of the primitive part of our brain, the amygdala, it's always on high alert to protect us from the next tiger lurking in the bushes. And because of that, we are easily triggered if we are not intentional about our opportunity mindset. We can quickly feel like we are eating bitter lemons or holding a lemon grenade, and the cost to our goodwills and ourselves can be high. Alternatively, we can strengthen our ability to be at the ready to turn lemons into lemonade. The secret is making our level 5 mindset the one we choose the most often. Like anything you want to do well, building our opportunity muscle requires practice and new habits. So now I'm going to share 4 of my favorite opportunity muscle building strategies. The first one is called Listen to Connect. You do this by finding a colleague or a few. You calmly tell them you have a concern where you would value their input and ideas. You accept their input as the opportunity, not as a judgment, and you consider how their gifts of ideas open you up to new ways of looking at your situation. The second strategy is look back to look forward. You do this when you reflect on a time you experienced a similar challenge to the one you're facing now, and you worked through it successfully. Welcome your previous success as the opportunity. Consider what you learned from it that you can apply this time. Great thanks goes to Judith Glazer and her work on conversational intelligence for these 2 strategies. The third strategy is think expansively. You can do this when you brainstorm for 10 minutes all the ways you can use a lemon and be as creative as possible. You can use any other object you can find in one of your Goodwill stores too. Then think about how you can use this mental exercise for your current situation. This exercise works really well with partners. And I want to thank the Imagineering workout by the Disney Imagineers for this strategy. The fourth strategy is a question storm. You do this with a few colleagues too. You identify the challenge and then together brainstorm at least 30 questions or more to get at the challenge. Make sure to write down all the questions where everyone can see them, and then decide together on the 5 most important questions to seek answers to first and go to work on those. And I want to thank Bob Tiede and his blog, leadingwithquestions.com, for this great strategy. An opportunity mindset is like a kaleidoscope. When you hold it in the light and turn it, you see different shapes, different patterns, different movement. An opportunity mindset is not having all the answers. It is motivating yourself and others to be open to possibilities. Opportunities come from listening, applying past lessons to current circumstances, challenging our thinking, asking great questions, or reading something for a spark. Avoiding a mindset crisis is about seeing an opening where others only see challenges. It is about appreciating all of the ways you can get value from a lemon. So here's my call to action for you. Start by noticing what is causing the up and down shift in your mindset daily. Don't be embarrassed about it. Pay attention for a few weeks. When you notice you're feeling afraid or lacking confidence, or you feel angry or frustrated, that's the moment to say, I need a mindset adjustment. That's the moment to try one of the opportunities and notice what happens. The more you notice your energy and experience having a positive shift, the easier it becomes to make an opportunity mindset your go-to. And that is where the magic will happen for you as goodwill leaders. Now, if you're curious to explore more, I invite you to sign up for our deep dive session, Be a Leading Leader with an Opportunity Mindset, taking place on August 10th. I'm really excited about this 90-minute session. At Managence.com, check out our complimentary Elevated Leadership Questionnaire for nonprofit leaders and get your confidential report with leadership resources and tips. Or email me or connect with me on LinkedIn if you would like more information about our culture change and coaching work with leaders and teams. And because I think I have one more minute, Deb, I have a bonus strategy. And that is be inquisitive. And this is courtesy of Andrew Horn. Here's an energizing way to be inquisitive. Google this: shocking statistics about X. X could be finding best practices in delegating, inspiring your team, or anything else that's tripping you up in your leadership. And voila, you have a wide range of opportunity sparks to read that will create new opportunities. Many thanks for your time today. I'm eager to hear your comments and questions. Deb, back to you.
Thank you so much, Denise. I love the topic of focusing on mindset and how we can shift our mindsets for our leadership. So you guys, Denise threw out to you, share your questions in the chat. I definitely have a few and we will dive in, but I want to make sure that you're adding your questions in there so that we can best serve all of you. Before Denise and I get into questions, I also want to give you a little bit of a challenge, which is, as we know, the past 12 plus months have been extraordinarily difficult and challenging. And what I'd love to see you do before Denise and I engage in some conversation is share in the chat, using your best mindset shift, share a win of something that could have been really hard in plus months and how you turned that into something really positive for you, for your team, for your organization. Share some of your successes and your wins in the chat. So Denise, I'm going to probably be all over the place with my questions because you pulled out so many things that were so great. So I love your 4 strategies of listen to connect, look back to look forward, think expansively, and be curious with a question storm. And I love that you guys will remember that the quote that we sort of started Arande's presentation off, which is one of my favorites, which is all around if you had an hour to solve a problem, spend 55 minutes on the question and the last 5 minutes on the execution. Make sure that you're getting into the right question. So that was my favorite of the 4. Wally Proenza, shout out South Florida, through another one. Bring diversity to the table. Make sure that you have a diverse a group of individuals, get new people to the table that wouldn't be there normally so that you can hear different voices. That's another great one. So I'm curious then, Denise, as I think about mind shift for ourselves, what do you see just in your coaching experience as the greatest hurdles that people sometimes have to shifting mindset?
It's such a great question, Deb. It's forgetting to ask for help. It's thinking that we as leaders have all the have to have the answers ourselves. Like we're not leader enough, or we're not performing well enough if we don't know the answers. And I think that the biggest thing that I've learned, over the last 20 years or so is that the best thing we can do as leaders is actually reach out and say, you know what, I don't actually know the answer, or I'm not exactly sure how we should approach this thing, and be intentional about getting perspective, and especially diverse perspective, because the role of leaders is really to influence great performance, not just do great performance. And when you get perspective, then you have more to work with.
Yeah, that's great. And so a little bit, of what I just heard you say, and tying into our last conversation as well, is there's vulnerability in saying, I don't have all the answers, I need some help. And I think it's the reminder that we are not, as leaders, in our roles, to have all the answers. That's not our job. Our job is to create the space where we together can come to better solutions. So I love pointing that out, and the tie between shifting your mindset and vulnerability. I think that's really powerful. So how do you think that we can coach one another? We can coach our teams to cultivate that mindset shift, to really lean into opportunity.
Again, great question. Thank you. So here's another tip, another tool. It's called having discovery conversations. This is another tool that Judith Glaser created in her work, and of conversational intelligence. Well, here's the idea of a discovery conversation. I start most meetings that I go into by saying we're having a discovery conversation. What I want are lots of ideas. We're not making any decisions here. There's no wrong answers. In discovery, you want to look under every rock. You want to imagine different possibilities. For some reason, our amygdala really likes the word discovery. Like when it hears that word, it literally calms us down. And so when you're going into a really hard conversation and you just say to everybody, we're going to take a few minutes to have a discovery conversation and see what's on everybody's mind. And then we're going to figure out where to go from here. It just changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah,
that's what I would coach everybody to do, is like really practice this idea of having discovery conversations.
Yeah, I think when you can spend more time getting curious and less time looking for the solution, you're winning all the way around. Earlier in the chat, as you were speaking, Dodie Brown put a great comment in there. She said, it's not really whether the glass is half full or whether it's half empty. Sometimes you just need a different glass. And that, I think, is exactly it. It's think completely differently. And we get really confined by where we've come and where we think we need to go, as opposed to spending more time getting really, really creative.
Yeah. And the thing about the discovery quest conversations is, the truth is we never know where the best answers are going to come from. Oftentimes, they actually come from the conversation that multiple people are having together. So it's not that one person had the best answer or the other person had the best answer. It's that our idea create the way to move forward, the opportunity.
You know, it's funny in when you just said that it's the different voices coming together and the different ideas. We were also talking before around what are the things that can hold you back from, really either having, being courageously authentic, or in this case, really focusing on a positive mindset. And comparison came up. And, when you talked about having the right answer or being the smartest one in the room, it's not about that. It's really how do we layer on top of one another and bounce off of one another to come to that collective right answer. That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to say I think it's so awesome. The number of real call outs of what people did in the last year in the chat to really live into a growth mindset and a mindset of opportunity has been awesome. People are loving the notion of the discovery conversation and how that is very freeing and opening up, expansive. What are, as you think of other tactics, you've given us some really great ones. What do you think gets primarily in our way? What can keep us in that level 1, level 2, you hate to do house cleaning, I hate to do expense reports, what is it that can keep you in that space?
Well, we're as I mentioned briefly in my comments, we're predisposed to a negative mindset as human beings. We're predisposed to that to protect ourselves from, harm and things that we don't like. And it's just natural, we naturally are going to feel that. And so, and it's a very heavy, weighty energy. And so when we start feeling it, it just naturally drags us down. And so, for you, for example, hating, expense reports, I don't love those either. But right, like you get your mind's, your internal conversation with yourself is, oh, God, I got to do this, and I just hate it. And as you're having, you're not saying it out loud, but you're having this internal conversation with your head, you're already talking yourself into hating it, and so now you've already set off a hijack. Like you've already taken, that hijack happens in 0.07 seconds. That's less than a second,
Yeah.
You've already told yourself why it's going to be such an awful thing. So, the opportunity that we have is to notice those things that we find really difficult and to make them more enjoyable in some way. Can you get together with a colleague and, do your expense reports? Can you reward yourself? Can you tell yourself, if I do my expense report, it makes it easier for the finance department. And when the finance department feels better, they're happier, and it makes it easier for them to do the work that they need to do. It's all about recognizing that if we stay inside our head by ourselves, we spiral down. If we look outward and make connections and think about how what we're doing impacts other people, then we start to open up to a much more positive perspective.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that, again, that reminds me of, the similar question I asked Aronde earlier, which was around, what gets in our way when it comes to being courageously authentic, or what gets in our way from having a positive mindset. And goodwill, as goodwillers, we are predisposed to think of our mission, to think of the people we're serving, to think of our colleagues. And so, I love that point of get out of your own head, what are the triggers, and if you can push yourself to get beyond yourself and look at, for the sake of what am I doing that? You would think for me with expense reports, reimbursing myself would be motivation enough, but apparently it's not. So I do actually love the trigger of, well, if I give it in late, that's going to make it harder for the finance team. And that actually is more motivating to me. And so I think that's really helpful. So, you know, it's really interesting to see all of the comments here. Self-talk. Deborah Carbaugh is calling out in the chat how self-talk, both good and bad, can be a really positive tool. Something else I was thinking about as you were talking just now is around sort of your somatic experience, or what is your mind-body connection, and how, if you shift just sort of where you are physically or what you're doing physically, it can make a big impact on mindset. Have you had experience with that in your practice? And are there encouragements in sort of the more somatic mind-body connection space that you'd recommend?
Yeah, well, I love appreciate you making that connection. And, you know, just moving to another space where you enjoy being might help you do those expense reports in a little bit more timely way, you know? But here's the thing. There actually is a physiological thing happening in our brains, in our neuroscience, in our neurochemistry, I should say, when we are feeling negative. And so in our brain, there are a thing called neurotransmitters. And when we're having a negative experience, the negative, cortisol is a negative neurotransmitter that gets released in our brain. And so if we're having a really difficult moment and we keep spiraling down on how bad the situation is, how awful the situation is, how we create more drama around it, it's like our brain is like at the end of a fire hose with cortisol just shooting out of it. And the longer that cortisol is firing, the longer it takes us to recover from that drama. And at the end of it, we feel exhausted. Think about times when you have felt that. How capable do you feel of going into a meeting and having a really creative conversation, you know, when you've just had this sort of awful experience? On the other hand, when you're able to connect to a colleague, you know, or read an article that helps center you again and feel, get back to your creative potential. And this especially happens when you connect with colleagues. You fire, another neurotransmitter gets fired in our brain, oxytocin. And oxytocin is sometimes considered the bonding or love hormone, because what happens is it opens up our brain. It allows us to reach our prefrontal cortex, where our logic, our creativity, our rationale lie. And so what we're trying to do when we're coming from an opportunity mindset, and we're trying to keep our brain, our neural pathways open to access our creativity. You know, if you have too much cortisol over a long period of time, it can result in really physiological challenges like ulcers and high blood pressure and other things like that. So there is a really deep, important mind-body connection to the way our mindset works.
Yeah, I think being able to find whatever works for you, it's different for everybody. And I loved Brad Stefani in the chat just gave sort of a virtual way of shifting. You know, sometimes you need to change the scenery, sometimes you need to change a Zoom background. So like mixing it up, I think that is, you know, that is a great practical 2020, 2021 example. Good call. You know, and listen, guys, you all have heard it before. This is not rocket science, but getting up and changing your scenery, literally, you know, going into a different room, getting outside, even if it's for 2 minutes before you come into the next thing, gives you a chance, gives you an opportunity to shift perspective. And that's the, one of my favorite Viktor Frankl quotes around emotional intelligence is, between stimulus and response, there's a place for a pause. And in that pause is where you give yourself choice. You can not go the way you want to go, or you can pause, shift, and do something that is generative and productive. So I love that. Oh, I love I go out to water my plants to reset. So you killed 2 birds with that one. You're watering the plants and you're shifting your mindset. That is great. That is great. Denise, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I love this opportunity to pause and reflect on mindset. I hope you guys see how connected mindset and courageous authenticity and really leaning into the opportunities within your leadership are. And so that's why we really wanted to pair that content that Denise is offering with what Arande offered today, so you can see how clearly linked they are. Denise, thank you for sharing. You saw that Denise is going to be doing a 90-minute webinar